Istanbul has always been a crossroads of culture, trade, and of course history, a city that connects continents. From the bustling Grand Bazaar and the convenient crypto off-ramps to the serene Prince's Islands, it really offers something for everyone. But Turkey is so much more than just Istanbul. It's a growing crypto hotspot that comes alive in the springtime, and it offers an abundance of natural beauty. So whether you're visiting the centuries-old landmarks or just paying for coffee with stablecoins, Turkey beautifully blends its rich past with the digital future. So with Crossroads 2025 happening in April, I jumped on a plane to see how a short flight to Istanbul can offer you this, and of course, this.
GM, and welcome back to Solana Floor. We are back in Istanbul today, and it's a return for me in two senses of the word, because I actually lived here for a few years when I was a child, and I'm back trying to make sense of this mix of ancient and modern, where the East and the West collides. But the second reason I'm back here in Istanbul is because Crossroads 2025 is going to be happening right here at the glorious Rixos Tersane, which is why I'm here for the next few days to try and figure out how you can make the most of your time when you visit in April. We're going to be traveling with locals to all the attractions, and we're going to figure out the best itinerary for your time in April. I'll see you there. And before you roll your eyes and think, oh God, here we go, another crypto conference, hold on a second. First off, this location is absolutely unique because 600 years ago, it was an Ottoman dockyard. And until quite recently, they literally built ships here. And you can see some of the remnants still present. Now, the winter months can be quite cold in Istanbul, but I'm standing next to an infinity pool which connects to the salt water. And when the day's winding down, why not take a cruise around the water with one of these beautiful boats? By the time you get here in April for Crossroads 2025, this is what you can expect. This is a quick rundown of how much you can do in the space of a few short days. That's where the Rixos is, facing the Golden Horn. You've got the center of the old Byzantine Empire there, with the Topkapı Palace, Hagia Sophia, Blue Mosque, Grand Bazaar, Spice Bazaars, etc. Over on the European side here, we have the Galata Tower, Taksim Square, the center of Istanbul, and down, this is a beautiful walk along the Bosphorus, Ortaköy, where we'll end our trip, the Bosphorus Bridge, the Asian side, and of course, if you do fancy it, a day trip to the islands. So we're going to start here today in Taksim Square, which is the beating heart of Istanbul, and we're going to walk down Istiklal Avenue, which is probably the most recognizable shopping street in the city. So we've just met the friendliest, Christmassiest puppy in the world. I've named him Rudolph, and all he wants to do is hang out with the tourists. He's actually ruined my trousers, but it's all worth it. You going to come to Crossroads?
He's coming to Crossroads.
Now, if you're like me and you're not a fan of shopping on an empty stomach, you simply have to try one of these world-famous wet burgers. Now, I know a wet burger doesn't exactly sound appetizing, but trust me, if you've never had one, you are missing out. And this is what they look like. These are insanely good. That takes me back to my childhood. So we just bought those wet burgers with a stable coin. It was life-changingly good. We're gonna see if we can get the metro all the way down to the bottom. But first, check out this ice cream. Abi.
One eternity later.
Sağ olasın.
Teşekkürler. Buyurun.
Teşekkür ederim. İster misin? And if you're feeling a little bit lazy after eating and you want to get straight down to the middle of the street, you can take this historic tram and let's see where it takes us. We're only halfway down the shopping street and we've stumbled on this beautiful Basilica of St. Anton that predates the Ottoman Empire. So we've come to the end of the Istiklal shopping street. Just down there is where you have some beautiful boutique shops. We're going to explore that in a second. Now, Turkey used to be known for being the land of knockoffs, and this is quite interesting. In the foreground, you've got the famous Sultanahmet Mosque, and in the sky, what looks like Van Gogh's Starry Night, or at least their own interpretation of it. Just minutes away from that busy shopping street, the Istiklal Caddesi, you've got the gorgeous Galata Tower. Legend has it, a guy called Çelebi one day fashioned himself in the 1400s or the 1500s some wings out of bird feathers, and he managed to actually fly across the Bosphorus. Now from the top of this tower you can see the Rixos Tersane. We stopped in Karaköy for a very quick nibble. We're going to stock up on sugar and some caffeine because we need it. We simply had to do a little pit stop in the world-famous Güllüoğlu baklava shop. Now this place is still in Karaköy. We're still very close to where we were. Karaköy is lovely and it's vibrant in the summer months and the spring months, and you should absolutely come and visit. This is a beautiful street with loads of cafes, and you can see directly above me that you've got these colorful umbrellas. But a couple streets down, you've got these fishermen and they're selling fresh caught fish, and they've wrapped them all up and they've grilled them. It's delicious. I can definitely recommend it. So we just took the tram from Karaköy to Sultanahmet. It took us about 15 minutes, and we're at the very heart of what used to be the Byzantine Empire. We're in the courtyard of the Sultanahmet Mosque. The architecture is quite interesting because it's one of the very few mosques that have 6 minarets. Usually they have 2 or 4, and it was built in a way that you can see all 6 of the minarets from pretty much wherever you look at it. This is another one of the absolute must-dos when you come to Istanbul in April, the Hagia Sophia or Hagia Sophia. Used to be a Christian place of worship, then it became a mosque, then it was a church again, then it was a mosque again. It is gorgeous. The camera does not do it enough justice. We asked one of the locals where we should eat, and he said pretty much anywhere around here is going to have good food, but if you want the best, you have to go to the Sultanahmet Köftecisi. Now these guys have been making meatballs apparently for hundreds of years, right here in the center of what used to be the Byzantine Empire. They've got shops all over the world. We tried pretty much everything on the menu, from the soup to the bean salad to the meatballs. I could definitely recommend all of it. Now we're gonna have dessert and see how long we can stay awake before we go back to the Rixos. We're trying to figure out how far the Grand Bazaar is from other monuments and landmarks in Istanbul. So we just came from the Golden Horn from Haliç.
Okay.
How far is that roughly if we wanted to go there by public transport, car, walking?
You can also walk. You can take public transport depending on the weather. Golden Horn is approximately like 15 to 20 minutes by walk. You can get a cab. Because due to the traffic, it will take also like 10 to 20 minutes.
Question about the seasonality. You said depending on the weather. When is the best time to be here?
It will be springtime.
April, May?
Yeah. And they can go to some landmarks like forests and like seashore, like Golden Horn area. Like that would be a nice trip.
What's your single most recommended piece of advice?
Like walking around the city, that's the best thing to do, you know, like because the history, like I'm talking about centuries, years ago. Because, for example, we are in Grand Bazaar. It opened in 1461. Yeah, it's really old. So that's kind of a good thing to experience.
But we still haven't found any of these crypto exchange shops, so I'm going to try and go into this one and see if they'll take my crypto and give me some Turkish lira.
Merhaba, iyi akşamlar. Burada kripto ile Türk lirası arasında değişim yapabiliyor muyuz? Nerede yapabiliriz peki?
Okay, the side quest has failed again. They won't buy my crypto for Turkish lira, but they said maybe around Taksim, Sirkeci, Sarıyer, these options. So we're going to see tomorrow if we can exchange crypto into lira. For now, we're going back to the Rixos. So we've just pulled onto the Asian side of Istanbul for the first time. We've arrived with the ferry at Kadıköy station. We're going to pick up some more passengers, and they're all coming with us towards the islands. We've got our sweet tea and our simits, and I think we're going to be there soon. I can't stop thinking about how much nicer this is going to be in April, in springtime, when the weather and the visibility is infinitely better. So we just arrived at the second largest of the Prince's Islands. It's called Heybeliada. But before we go to the biggest one, the Büyükada, let's see what we can find out about this island here.
It's really quiet here on Heybeliada. Turns out the Greeks used to mine copper here, which is what gave it the name in Greek. But what I found really interesting is that there's only a few thousand people living here in the winter months, and you can really feel that it's almost empty. So we're off to Büyükada, the final and biggest island of the day now, and we're going to continue our speed tour of Istanbul in preparation for Crossroads 2025. Let's see what Büyükada has in store for us.
These are the new electric buses that have replaced the old horse-drawn carriages. And to get to the top to Aya Yorgi, the monastery, the main attraction, you have to take one of these buses about halfway up the hill, and then it's about a 15-minute hike up the hill from there. The pictures I've seen are gorgeous. But for now, the speed tour continues. We are going back towards Istanbul. So we've just got off the ferry from the islands. We're in Kadıköy, the Asian side of Istanbul. This is home to the second football team out of 3 called Fenerbahçe. Earlier we were in Beşiktaş, which is another one of them. This is also apparently an up-and-coming neighborhood. They've got cafes, they've got bars. You can do some shopping around here. So we're on the ferry heading back towards the European side of Istanbul, and behind me is the legendary Maiden's Tower in the middle of the Bosphorus. Now the legend goes that a Byzantine king way back when received a prophecy that his daughter was going to get bitten by a snake and die at 18 years old. So to protect her, he sent her on a sort of exile into the middle of the sea, and then eventually, as you would expect, she was still bitten by a snake, and unfortunately she did not make it. I feel a bit naughty doing this because it's not exactly the cheapest way to get around Istanbul, but we are zooming through the Bosphorus right now. So if you're late for a meeting or you want to go networking somewhere and it's too much traffic, get yourself one of these sea taxis. We've paid about 420 lira. You can do the maths yourself, but it's going to get us there in no time. Still haven't found any physical crypto exchanges, but there's definitely plenty ways to spend your money here. So the ferry that we took earlier towards the islands, it was named Barış Manço. And here he is, legendary Turkish poppy reggae singer. You absolutely need to check him out. He's like the Turkish Bob Marley. We found the kumpir, the jacket potatoes. Again, I feel like we haven't stopped eating since we started this. Az fark etmez. Super. And now the best part, we get to pay with a Solana card.
İlkbaharda tavsiye ediyorlar abi.
Mesela Nisan, Mayıs.
Evet yani.
He reckons the spring months are better. Peki yaz aylarında gelirlerse çok mu sıcak, çok mu kalabalık?
Abi yazın çok kalabalık oluyor. Yani güzel oluyor. Turistler yazın daha...
Turistler daha çok. Burada ne? Dondurma yapıyorsunuz herhalde.
Evet, dondurma da kış olduğu için biraz işler keser. Salep de var şu an.
Çok teşekkür ederim abi. Sağ ol. İyi akşamlar.
We're at the airport, we're leaving Istanbul. We've really managed to do so much. The one thing that didn't quite work out the way we wanted it to was finding a physical crypto exchange. But I have to say, what impressed me more was that I can use my Solana card to pay pretty much everywhere except for the smallest shops maybe. So when you come and you join us in April, you don't have to bring Turkish lira, although maybe it's a good backup. You can use your cast Solana card directly from your phone. Next stop is Cappadocia. Let's see what happens there. GM, we've made it to Cappadocia. We're about a 1-hour flight from Istanbul, pretty much in the center of the country now. Let's go and explore this beautiful part of the country.
We've just arrived at the Red Valley, just outside Cappadocia. The sun is setting behind me. Now, when you do come here in April, you have your choice of doing quad bike tours, hot air balloons. You can go horse riding, camel riding, or just go on a hike, so don't forget to bring your hiking boots. But look at that. That is the 8th best sunset you can ever see in the world. So we've made it to Göreme, which is where you have these fairy chimney rock formations. But what I found really interesting is carved into the rocks, you have thousands of years old Christian monasteries and churches and chapels, and they're beautifully preserved, the artwork inside.
It's not quite a Lambo, but if you do want a creative way of getting around Cappadocia, you've got options.
I'm here at the Mirrored Church just outside Cappadocia. Now, this is another place of worship that was carved into the stone, and apparently they painted the walls red so that they reflected some light, hence the name Mirrored Church. I can't imagine living here in the 8th and 9th century. This is really tight. Apparently this was the communication tunnel, because you can't really fit much else through here. Now, unfortunately, we couldn't pay with our Solana card here. You have to use Turkish lira, but the struggle continues. I'm sure we'll find somewhere we can pay with crypto.
So this is literally a beautiful resort carved into the stone, into the rocks. So it's a defensive position as well as a lock on the door. That's incredible. That's amazing.
This door is for the lock. They're rolling this and locking here.
Those aren't caves for people living in, they were ancient crematoriums, and you can see sort of smoke that's been left there as well from thousands of years ago from people being cremated.
All right, so we're here in the restaurant, and Ibrahim Bey, the custodian of what used to be a church, which is now the first cave hotel here in Cappadocia, recommended that we eat this local delicacy. It's meat cooked in a clay pot. So tender. We followed the GPS, and apparently underground here somewhere, there's an ancient civilization that used to house up to 20,000 people. I have no idea what we're going to find out. There's only dogs around so far. Let's see what we can see. It's crazy to think 20,000 people were once living in this underground settlement. Honestly, if you've got kids, this is the best place to bring them. We're about 3 stories down into the underground settlements, and it keeps going further down. It's actually getting quite warm in here now. It is a ventilation shaft. Oh, that's crazy. That used to be a ladder of some sorts. And this is where they kept the horses, or donkeys, or mules. Pretty crazy to think that this was a solid defensive position for a while, when the war broke out between the Roman and the Byzantine Empire, and 20,000 people took refuge here in these underground tunnels. It's about 6 or 7 stories deep. The craziest thing in my mind is that we paid to get in here using Solana. I hope I'm the first person to do that, hopefully not the last. GM, we've just landed in Izmir Airport. It's a 1-hour flight south of Istanbul, where Crossroads 2025 is going to be happening on April 25th and 26th. Now we're going to drive about 1 hour south to Ephesus, and then we're going to come back to Izmir and explore the city and see what it has in store for us. Let's go. I'm standing here among the ancient ruins of Ephesus. There's an amazing audiovisual experience inside. Sadly, we can't film it, but if you do have the extra day, come and visit Izmir, come and visit Ephesus. And the ruins behind me used to be the ancient commercial and cultural and historic center, and it's really stood the test of time. So people here have done business with various gold coins over the years, from the Hellenic period to the Byzantine, the Roman, the Ottoman, and most recently, of course, the Turkish currencies have been used here. And I think I'm probably the first person to use any kind of cryptocurrency to enter this place. Best part of it is, you don't have to be in Istanbul to play with the cats. In fact, I think these ones are friendlier. So we're exploring the ancient ruins of Ephesus just outside Izmir, which is an hour south of where Crossroads is going to be. And I overheard one of the tour guides explaining that there's a pleasure house here, and it was built in the 1st century AD. And apparently you could pay for pleasure in this pleasure house using all different types of currencies, depending on whatever you had. And it made me think of buying meme coins for some reason. Make of that what you will. So Ephesus is amazing. We've learned about the ancient culture, the history, and the commerce, and the ancient civilizations that lived here. We've also made some new friends, but we're hungry now, so we're gonna head back towards Izmir and see what kind of local foods we can try. Because aside from the dogs and the cats and the weather and the culture and the history, I think being in Turkey, one of the best parts of it is definitely the food. He's out. It was a beautiful drive. The city is famous for its beautiful women, lovely weather in the springtime, and being a democratic stronghold in an increasingly conservative nation. Now, they told me to try a breakfast here called boyoz, a dessert that's named after a bomb. Apparently it's full of chocolate. And they also said that I should spend the evening having a beer with the locals along the waterfront. So we're gonna try and see if we can squeeze all of that into a single day, and we're gonna try and pay for everything using our Solana card. Let's go.
One of the locals here told us we have to try these desserts. They're called bombs. And I get the impression that they're full of chocolate and sugar. Let's see what we're dealing with. Oh, wow. If you're into sugar, you're in luck. Turkey is probably the best place to get diabetes. Amazing, but overwhelmingly sweet. So the Izmir bomb is absolutely worth the pit stop. So definitely just get yourself one with a bit of Turkish tea and you're good to go. Crossroads is happening in April in Istanbul, so I just spent the last few days traveling around Turkey trying to figure out how you can make the most of your time when you're here. But first, the most obvious observation is that it's December and it's cold, so springtime is going to be much, much nicer. Now about crypto off-ramps. During last Crossroads, they were a dime a dozen. You could walk into many shops on Taksim Square and they would buy your crypto for fiat, and that was easy. This time, not that many left. But what you can do now is use Solana card and spend stable coins like USDC or USDT without touching fiat. And I'm really hoping that by the time the Solana Seeker ships, we can directly use that as a payment method and avoid banks as well, and avoid Apple Pay entirely. So when you book your tickets for Crossroads 2025, make sure you give yourself an extra few days so you can travel Turkey, and I'll see you there in April.